In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the Photoshop edits for your dark still life photos. Here's an example of what your final product might look like after you've used the snipping tool to place the images in your slideshow for your photo portfolio. So you can see there's the original, levels, black and white. On the next slide, there is high contrast, gradient map and color blend, and gradient map and color blend with high contrast removed. So in the end, you should have snipped and labeled 6 versions of your best photo and place them in your photo portfolio. So let's go ahead and take a look at how to accomplish that in Photoshop. So here's my favorite image opened up in Photoshop, and the first thing that I'm going to do is crop it down to a size that I like. So I thought that there was a little bit too much black at the top of this image, and it kind of sets the proportions off. Remember that we discussed in the introduction of this project how to use cropping to improve the composition of your photo. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep in mind, however, that if I want to print this, a typical paper size is 8 by 10. So I'm going to try to crop it to something close to 8 by 10 so it will be easy for me to print it. So I'm going to go to Image, Image Size, and I'm going to remove this check mark here where it says Resample Image. That's a very important step. And I'm going to make the width 8 inches because that's the size of the photo paper. So I can crop off 2 inches on the height, and that will make it a perfect size to be printed eventually. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So I'm going to use the marquee tool, and I'm going to set it on fixed size and put the width as 8 inches and the height as 10 inches. Then when I click on this, it automatically makes an 8 by 10 box. Then I can click inside this box and move it around until I think that it looks good. And I want some black area at the top, but not too much. So I decided to cut a little bit off the bottom and a little bit off the top. Then I'm going to go to Image, Crop. So your image may or may not need to be cropped. I'm going to leave that decision up to you. To get rid of this marquee selection here, I'm just going to go to Select, Deselect, or you can push Control D on the keyboard. Alright, now that I have my image, I'm going to push Control 0, and that will make it fit the screen. The first thing that I'm going to do is use the adjustment layers here, this half white, half black button, and I'm going to check the levels. So you can see that I have a lot of information in the black area. There's nothing to really adjust there. But here in the white area, I have a flat line, which means that could use a little bit of improvement. So I'm going to take this white slider and I'm going to drag it into the beginning of the graph, and that brings out the light values in the photo. I think I am going to back it off slightly, and I think that looks pretty good right there. So now, before we go any further, what I should do is turn off this eyeball and get my snipping tool and create a new project and snip this. And then I should go to my online portfolio and make a new slide and paste it. And I should label this original. And then I should go back and turn this eyeball on and get the snipping tool, go to New, snip it, copy, go back to my portfolio, and remember when you're shrinking these, only use the corners because otherwise you'll get distortion. And I will label this one as levels. Label this one original, and then just keep going and documenting my progress as I work on the project in Photoshop. So now back to Photoshop. The next thing that I'm going to do is turn this to black and white. So again, hit the adjustment button and go to black and white. I'm not going to change any of these values because I think it already looks pretty good, and I already adjusted the levels, so I'm not going to manipulate it anymore. So again, use the snipping tool, get a snip of this, put it in your portfolio and label it. The next thing that I'm going to do is do something for a little bit of an artistic effect. So again, with the adjustment levels or adjustment layers, I'm going to choose brightness and contrast. So I'm going to increase the brightness a lot and then start messing around with the contrast until I get an interesting effect. So I'm just kind of blowing the photo out in certain areas. So I'm making the white really white and the darks really dark. And just because I think it looks kind of interesting and cool, maybe like some sort of a pencil drawing or a poster or something like that. So again, I will use the snipping tool to snip a copy of this, put it in my portfolio, and label it high contrast. All right, the next thing that I'm going to do is go to Gradient Map, and the default that my computer was set on was the blue to white, but I can change that many different ways. So I already have a lot of gradients loaded in here, but I could load some more gradients by clicking this button and choosing, for example, let's say metals, and clicking append, and then it will put the metals in at the bottom here. So I will just experiment clicking with these, clicking on these. The one that I chose ultimately, I believe, is this one, but the effect is too much. It doesn't really show the photograph very well, so I decided to change the blend mode. So right here under the Layers tab is this box that says Normal. If you pop open this little menu here, starting with Darken, now that you've clicked Darken and it's highlighted here, you can go through these one at a time and look at the effect and then stop or go back to the one that you like the best. And I really liked the color mode, so that's the one that I went with right there. So again, go ahead and snip it with your snipping tool, and I would label this one Gradient Map. Then I wanted to try another gradient map, but without the brightness and contrast. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the eyeball off on this, make a new gradient map with new colors, and I don't remember which one I chose. I'll just say this one. And I'll just go back to color again. But this time I'm also going to turn off the brightness and contrast, and it definitely changes the effect of the photo. So again, I would use the snipping tool and place this in my portfolio and label it Gradient Map without brightness and contrast. And for your 6th version, I chose to do 2 gradient maps, but you could choose something totally different for number 6. You could, for example, do threshold or any other of the Photoshop projects that we've had so far. You can use your knowledge and kind of create your own thing. So then what I would like for you to do, once you have all of your steps snipped and put into your portfolio, I'd like you to go through and choose the ones that you like the best and label it. So I'm going to get the text box and click and drag right here because this is actually my favorite. And let's go ahead and change the text color to white. And I'm just going to write number 1 so everybody knows that's what I think is my best photo. And I actually like this one as my second choice. So change it to white, number 2. And then my third favorite is this one right here. Change it to white and number 3. All right, that's the finished project. So that's it for this video.